What's up guys, Nathan here, and today I want to talk about if I had to start poker all over again today, these are the top 9 things that I would do to start quickly winning big. Alright guys, so in this video you're hopefully going to get to learn a thing or two from my over a decade experience playing this game professionally and having been in the game of poker for nearly 20 years, written 3 books, several training courses, coached hundreds of students, but enough about me, let's help you start winning or winning more. So these are the top 9 things that I would do if I had to start poker all over again today. So guys, number 1 always has to be play the right hands. Again, having coached hundreds of students in this game, this is often the number 1 thing that holds people back. Guys, the bottom line is if you're not playing the right hands in the right positions at the poker table, you're putting yourself in a mathematically disadvantageous position right from the start of the hand. How can you ever expect to win? So I'm going to tell you what hands to play right now. Only play the following hands: pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, all the way down to pocket 2s. You also want to play, in addition to that, ace king, ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, king queen, king jack, queen jack, and now only if they're suited, meaning that both cards are the same suit. For example, jack of hearts, 10 of hearts. You want to play the jack 10 suited, the 10 9 suited, 9 8 suited, and 8 7 suited. Fold everything else. Now a lot of people will say, oh my god, Nathan, this is way too tight. How can you do this? Guys, I gotta be honest, this strategy will only work in small stakes games, but that is what 95% of people play, is small stakes games. And yes, this is a really boring, tight strategy that's not a whole lot of fun. By the way, if you play online poker, you get bored, just add some more tables. That's an easy fix for the boredom part. But guys, the bottom line is this is about winning at poker. Poker is a lot more fun when you're actually making money from it, and you gotta be a little bit disciplined with the hands that you choose to play. If you choose to only play these hands, you're going to have a strong mathematical advantage entering the hand, and this is going to inevitably lead to better profits for especially you beginners watching this video who are struggling to win. By the way, if you want to know my recommendations for what hands to play from every single seat at the poker table, I have a free poker cheat sheet. It has charts and everything. You can download it and read it in an afternoon. That'll be the top link in the description below. Let's move on to thing number 2 that I would do if I had to start poker all over again today, and that is to remember to always raise first in the pot. This is another big thing that I've noticed from my students over the years, that they have trouble with this. And guys, the bottom line here is you never want to enter the pot showing weakness. That is what recreational poker players do after all, and they wonder why they lose. Guys, if you are the first person into the pot, you always want to raise it up. This is a proven statistical advantage. I literally provided the evidence in my first book, Crushing the Micro Stakes. Over millions and millions of hands, I showed samples of my results at the online poker tables when I raised versus when I limped into the pot. And limping, for those of you guys don't know, is just the act of just calling the blind pre-flop. Again, putting yourself in a passive position, which I do not recommend. I recommend taking control, raising it up, and putting the table on notice that you're in charge of the hand. This is going to simply give you more ways to win later on. Now let me give you some rough rules of thumb, because people ask me, well, Nathan, how much should you raise? I would use 3 times the big blind as a default in any kind of poker game. So if you're playing a $1, $2 cash game, for example, 3 times the big blind would of course be $6. And when you are ATS attempting to steal the blinds, which you're going to do from the cutoff and the button, I'm going to show you those seats, by the way, in just a second here. I would recommend raising it 2.5 times the big blind. So once again, same game, $1, $2 cash game, that would be $5. All right, so let's talk about position now. So position is vitally important, guys. This is one of the twin pillars to your success in poker. The other one is aggression, which is what we just talked about, and this is understanding your position at the poker table. So I just mentioned the cutoff and the button, and I'm going to put the image on your screen right now of the poker table so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. We've got EP, MP, which stands for early position, middle position, and then you got the cutoff and the button. The button's always the seat that has the dealer chip in front of it, and the cutoff is the seat directly to the right of it, and then you have the small blind and the big blind. Guys, the only thing you need to know here is you're going to win the vast majority of your money, your profits in this game from the cutoff and the button, for the simple reason that you get to act last on the flop, turn, and river, which is a massive proven statistical advantage, because you simply get to see what they do first and you get to react to them. They basically have to play the guessing game, whereas you get to see what they do first. Information, of course, is power in any situation in life, and definitely at the poker table as well. So guys, you want to play the majority of your hands from these 2 seats, and those are the ATS seats, by the way, where you're attempting to steal the blinds, where you can make it 2.5 2.5 times the big blind instead of 3. And the reason why we do that, by the way, is because you only have a few people to beat left remaining in the hand. And as we just mentioned, we're going to be playing more hands from these seats as well, so it just gives us a cheaper price to try to take it down right now. We're going to be playing a lot of hands from those seats. Once again, by the way, if you want to know my entire ranges, what hands to play from every seat at the poker table, there are charts in my free poker cheat sheet, top link in the description below. But guys, bottom line, pay attention to your position at all times at the poker table. All good poker players know this, and it influences every single decision they make. Let's move on to thing number 4 that I would do if I had to start poker all over again today, and that is remembering to always apply pressure on the flop. So guys, we already talked about raising pre-flop, giving ourselves the advantage going in the hand, so you want to keep your foot on the gas pedal most of the time. Now, let me give you an example. You raise on the button with ace-jack offsuit, and a tag, tight and aggressive player calls you in the big blind. Flop comes down with a 10 of spades, 5 of hearts, and 4 of diamonds, and the tag checks. What should you be doing in this spot? Well guys, you want to make a C bet, which stands for continuation bet. We are continuing the aggression that we built before the flop, and the reason why you want to do this, guys, is because 2 out of 3 times your opponent's going to miss the flop in poker, and therefore if you just make a small bet, as I suggest here, 50% of the pot, you're going to take it down a large amount of the time. We're also not risking a whole lot, because you guys have probably noticed we don't have anything here either, but that's not important, guys. This is the bread and butter of how you win at poker. Most of the time, nobody has anything in poker, and they certainly don't have anything really strong like top pair or an overpair or trips or something like that. So often, where the real rubber meets the road in poker, where you really get ahead in this game, is by winning a lot of these smaller pots where nobody really has anything. And you don't do it by playing passively, guys. You do it by being aggressive, and that's why you want to bet here most of the time. Alright guys, so moving on to thing number 5 that I would do if I had to start poker all over again, and that is to know to follow up on some turn cards. So we just talked about on the flop how we want to be continuing our aggression a lot of the time, even when we don't hit anything, any kind of pair, and you also want to be doing this on the turn a fair amount of the time as well. Guys, this is applying pressure like this, especially against the weaker players, has been absolute money for me over the years at the poker table, because once again, most of the time nobody really has anything good, so you need to be able to lean on them and get them to fold better hands sometimes. Alright guys, so the key thing to understand here is that you want to be double barreling specifically on the scare cards. Now I don't have time to go deep into that in this video. I actually have several videos on this, much longer and more in depth than this one, going into detail about what a scare card is and when to bet in my brand new Elite Poker Training University, 17 plus hours of advanced poker training, hundreds and hundreds of examples and downloadable cheat sheets. Enrollment is open right now. I'll include a link for that in the description below. But in a nutshell, guys, a scare card in poker is a card on the turn or river, which is often a Broadway card, meaning a 10, jack, queen, king, or ace, or some sort of card that completes a draw. Basically, it's going to be scary to our opponent, as the name suggests, and often we can use these cards to our advantage to get them to fold a superior hand. So let's give you an example. Once again, you raise in the cutoff, as we talked about before, with 10-9 of hearts. Nice little hands. We're going to be playing this hand often, especially on the cutoff in a good seated poker table like that. So a tag, tight, and aggressive player calls us in the big blind. Flop comes down with a queen of clubs, 8 of hearts, and 3 of diamonds. So decent flop for our hand here. Hopefully you guys have noticed that we have the gut shot straight draw here. If the jack were to come on the turn or river, we would make the nut straight. We also have the backdoor flush draw. It's really important to understand how to read boards like this, guys. If it came heart on the turn river, we would make a nearly unbeatable hand with a flush. So in this situation, the tag checks, you make your c-bet. We just talked about that in the previous example. The tag calls, and so we'll go to the turn now. Turn comes with the king of diamonds. So guys, this card is exactly what we're just talking about in terms of a scare card. It's a big card. So if this player has a hand like, for example, 8-7, which is middle pair on the flop, they're not going to like to see this king because it represents another higher card that could be beating them. And you guys need to remember as well that when we raise pre-flop, what hands are they putting us on? They're often putting us on big cards like an ace, king, queen. those kind of hands, and now there's two of them on the board here. So hopefully you guys understand where I'm going here. We want to be using this card to our advantage, so I'm often going to make what we call a double barrel here again. I'm gonna bet 75% of the pot, by the way, this time, because I want them to know that we're serious. I want them to know, hey, look, this is starting to get really expensive for you. You need to lay down your hand right now. Guys, bottom line, you don't want to be doing this all the time, and you don't want to be doing this against the rec players, by the way, aka the fish, but you do want to be doing this against those tighter, risk-averse regulars. This play is literally money. All right, let's move on to thing number 6 I would do if I had to start poker all over again, and that is do not hero call versus the nits. So let's talk about another player type, guys. The nit is the tightest player at the table. By the way, I discuss player types in all of my poker books, my free poker cheat sheet and everything. If you want to know more, again, I'll link up everything in the description below. But the nit is one of my 5 major poker player types. It's the tightest player at the table. It's the person that's been sitting in the corner for the last half an hour. They don't say anything. They've been folding every single hand. They've been waiting for their aces or their kings, and now they're gonna have it. So people often ask me, what do you do when you get raised by these people? Well, you run for the hills, basically, meaning you fold your hand. So you should fold versus the tight players when you have nothing or even just one pair. Because what you guys need to know, guys, is that these players are not bluffing you, especially online poker, especially with multi-tabling and stuff. These players might be playing 4 or 8 other tables at a time. They're not picking on you out of the blue, guys. One thing you can do, especially if you play online poker, is you can just use a HUD. I use Poker Tracker. Again, I'll link that up in the description below. And you can put the raise flop percentage on your screen. This is one of the 15 poker HUD stats that I always use when playing online poker. And basically what I look for is if I see 15% or less on that particular HUD stat, I know this is the kind of player that is only raising me after the flop with, you know, basically the nuts or big draws, which basically means they got 2 pair, they got trips, they got a straight, they got some sort of massive combo draw, meaning that they have a very, very strong hand and you want to fold your hand. All right, guys, let's move on to thing number 7 around our fingers here for what I would do if I had to start poker again, and that is to understand the basics of exploitative bet sizing. Now, if you guys are fans of the channel here, by the way, make sure you subscribe so you never miss my new poker strategy videos. You know that this is the style of poker that I teach. I do not recommend GTO, game theory optimal, at lower stakes. People ask me this quite a bit these days. I think it's actually harmful for your game, and certainly it is not optimal for these stakes, that is for sure. And the simple reason why, guys, you need to understand that every single poker player type is different. You cannot use a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter approach. Strategies like this, which are based on mathematical frequencies, are highly effective at higher stakes, mid-high stakes. But again, only 5% of people actually play those stakes. You're actually playing against other world-class opponents. In low-stakes games where you're frequently playing against far different player types, recreational player types, tight regulars, loose and aggressive recreational player types. Typically these players, the strategy to beat them varies widely, and you cannot use the same strategy versus each one. Let me give you an example. You should often value bet, V-bet, big versus the fish in particular, because they love to call with anything, of course, and you want to bluff them smalls. As I talk about in my first book, Crushing the Micro Stakes, I will often value bet them. That means that we have a strong belief that we have the best hand, by the way. Often I will bet 80% of the pot. So the pot's $100, I'll bet $80. But when I'm just bluffing, I will only bet 40% of the pot, because I know there's no point in betting the higher amount because they're not paying attention. And that is why using these exploitative bet strategies is far more effective, because you are playing the player instead of trying to use this cookie cutter strategy that you bet 60% in all situations against all player types. That will help at higher stakes to make you unexploitable, but that is nowhere near the most effective strategy in low stakes games versus the very, very different player types you're going to find yourself again. Guys, as a general rule of thumb, versus the regulars, you want to standardize your bet sizing more, even against those players, guys. You do not be afraid to either overbet or underbet. You got to experiment with different bet sizing, guys. This is the stuff that really propelled my game early on. I was doing a lot of stuff back then when I was first starting out that a lot of people laughed at. They said, oh, that's crazy. Why is that guy betting so much, doing overbets on the river? And important. And then, you know, lo and behold, you know, people started seeing my results. I talked about it in some of my books, and now I see some people copying that kind of stuff at the tables. Guys, you gotta try stuff for yourself. Don't listen to somebody who thinks they've got the game solved mathematically, or you use some computer solver program that's going to tell you exactly what to bet in all situations. Guys, poker is a game played between people, and at low stakes, there are very, very different player types. You need to learn the strategies to beat each particular one. All right, I've beaten that dead horse enough. Let's move on to thing number 8 here that I would do if I was starting poker all again, is that is to understand to always bet raise your draws. Guys, good players understand that you don't want to just call with your draws, because once again, that only gives you one way to win. If you are betting or raising, then you're simply going to give yourself more ways to win. Let me give you an example once again. You have ace 10 of hearts, flop comes down with the 8 of hearts, 4 of spades, and king of hearts. Awesome, right? We got the nut flush draw. You check, a lag player bets. Lag stands for loose and aggressive. This is another one of my 5 major poker player types. What should you do? Guys, I love to check raise in a situation like this. Now, I do want to be totally clear here that I am balancing my ranges here. I'm not always check raising in this situation, but this would be a prime example of what we just talked about, of tailoring our strategy to this specific player type. We know that a loose and aggressive player here is likely to be stabbing at this pot with a very wide range, whereas a nit, like we talked about, the tightest player at the table, is not. When they're betting here, they got the king. So you want to increase your check raising frequency in a spot versus a loose and aggressive player type here, and lower it tremendously versus the nit. Again, this is where a lot of these math and GTO based strategies these days completely fail. They don't understand that you have to play the player in poker, especially in low stakes games, if you truly want to get ahead. All right, guys, moving on to my final number 9 here, thing that I would do if I was starting poker all over again, and that is to understand, guys, to just have fun. I will tell you from my endless rants on my poker blog over the years, I'm sorry for those of you guys had to read those, where I quit the game 128 times. We tend to take this game a little bit too seriously sometimes, guys. You need to relax and understand that you simply can't win every single hand. You also need to understand that you're going to take endless bad beats, coolers, setups, and the like in this game. And guys, this is how poker works. This game is a never-ending roller coaster, and the goal is to simply have more ups than downs over the long run. Guys, this is what we call variance, by the way, and you need to make peace with variance, because if you can, your journey in this game is going to be a lot more enjoyable and also profitable. Guys, at the end of the day, always remember, why did you first get into this game? You probably started playing it for fun. It is really important to always take that lighthearted approach with you to the poker tables, because there's going to be a lot of hills and valleys and a lot of tough times ahead if you want to take this game seriously. Laugh off a lot of the hands you lose, and this game is going to be a lot better for you. So guys, I hope this one helped. Make sure you like and subscribe if any of these 9 tips helped you. And if you're just starting out with poker right now, let me know in the comments below what is holding you back the most, and I will try to make a video in the coming weeks to help you on that specific topic. I always read the comments, so I know what you guys want to see. And lastly, once again, if you guys want to know my entire strategy for crushing the small and mid-stakes games, make sure you grab a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. That'll be the top link in the description below. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope this one was helpful. All the best at the poker tables, unless you're on mine.